Oh, I was looking for my dad. Well, I suppose I can tell you the story. Go ahead and sit down. I'll tell you the story. I've been looking for my dad. The last conversation we had was terrible. I love my dad. See, my dad is the best person I know. He is a dutiful son. We are, my brother and I are actually sixth-generation farmers. And my dad, like his father before him, and his father before him, and his father before him, has worked this ground that's been in our family for generations. And people look up to him and admire him. My dad is a dutiful husband. My mom is his queen. And as a father, he has shown me love and mercy and grace. He's been patient with me in times when I know I didn't deserve it. And I haven't even told you about my brother. If my dad was called a saint, it would probably be because of the way that he's put up with my brother. I think that's why all this started, because of my brother. Everything is because of my brother, it seems like, especially in the last few months. But the more that I think about it, see, I think I'm some kind of hypocritical saint. And my brother, the one that is so easy to despise, he's probably an honorable sinner. Because he just comes out and says what's on his mind and is truthful about it. And here the whole time I thought I was the model son. But now after what I just said to my dad, what I did, maybe the role has been reversed. See, my dad is the person that the community looks up to. Not just because he's tall, because he is honorable. He's fair. He's just. People look to him because he is wise, because he makes good decisions. If there's an investment to be made, people ask him about it. And that's what drives me crazy about what my brother did. And then how my dad responded. See, my brother had this plan. He's always got ideas. And he had this plan that if Dad would just give him his portion of the ground early, an early inheritance, that he was going to do something with it. Well, I was sure that Dad would see through his scheme. And that's when it started, when I started questioning Dad. See, my brother finally goes up to Dad and he says, "Hey, have you thought about this? I really want you to do this." And my dad said, "Yeah, if that's what you want, I'll do it." A few days later, we signed the contract. My brother got half the ground. I got the other half. I told Dad, this doesn't even matter because I am always going to be with you. I love working for you, Dad. But my brother, no sooner had he received the contract, and then he goes and we have an auction. And boom, that ground that had been in the family for years, for generations, where my family, where my dad had put his blood and sweat and tears, was gone. And my brother just leaves. And here's the thing that kills me about the whole thing. When my brother did this to my dad, because that's what I think he did it, he might as well have told Dad, "Why don't you just go ahead and die already so I can have my money?" And I don't understand why Dad, he just went along with it. I asked him, he said, "Well, I love your brother, and this is how that I will love him." Well, truth be told, The first month or two were pretty easy. In fact, I think life was better once my brother was gone. Dad was a little worried about him. But once my brother was gone, a lot of that stress evaporated. And Dad and I were getting things done. And then it was about harvest time. I was walking out through the field, and I noticed some kind of commotion in the distance. And it looked like there was everybody in town was coming to our barn. I had no idea why that would have happened. And I walked up and talked to one of our hired men and asked him, hey, what's going on here? He said, well, it's a party. Why would we have a party? His dad has always been a little frugal. He said, well, your brother came back. I told him, don't say my brother. He's dead to me. I never want to see him again. He said, well, he's back. And I thought, well, maybe he did something with that money that he was given. I mean, I didn't want him to be better off than I was financially, but maybe, just maybe he did something. So I asked him, well, so what's the story? Well, he's come back, but he lost everything. Well, that figures. That's just like him. Waste it all. And I said, well, what did Dad do? Well, he was thrilled. Seriously. Yeah, he was thrilled. In fact, your dad, your dad, the one that that never really runs anywhere, that is the one who's all pretty well buttoned up and put together, he ran out to your brother. And not only that, ran out there, robes flowing, and met him. My dad ran? Well, my brother had come back a filthy mess. A shell of the person that left. It serves him right, though. And I figured, well, Dad would have at the very least, had some stern words for him. My brother should have crawled on his knees up to my dad and kissed his feet. But instead, I guess Dad ran out and hugged him. He didn't say a word to him. He didn't need to. Because he hugged him and held him and didn't let go. Didn't let my brother say a word, not right away. I guess then my brother said, look, I don't deserve to be back here. And that's a true statement. He just wanted to work as a servant for Dad, and he would have been my servant too. But Dad took him back. He took him back with joy. He took him back as a son. He restored everything to him. He put the best robe on him. And then, if that wasn't enough, he killed the fattened calf, the one that we were saving for my wedding, for my friends. Dad has never given me so much as a meat goat, and he gives the calf to my brother. And this is the thing that I really regret. See, I couldn't bring myself to go into that party. There's no way I was going to go into that party. I stood outside with my arms crossed, and I was smoldering. I wasn't sure who I was more mad at, my brother for coming back or my dad for accepting him. And then, as I stood out there, Dad walked out, and he came to me. I just shook my head. How could you? How could you take him back? That idiot. And Dad, I thought you were wise, but here you're doing this now? And my dad said, son, I love you. You've always been with me, and everything that I have is yours. But I wasn't hearing any of that. I was just thinking about how I had slaved away from my dad. I had always been there, and this is the thanks I get, that he takes my brother back. And I walked away from him. And now that I've come to my senses, I realize that I have missed out on really knowing my dad. My dad, who was so full of grace and mercy and kindness. My dad, who is so full of forgiveness that he would accept my brother back, and then I can only stand back and watch and resent and seethe with anger. And now I just want to find him and tell him that I'm sorry. And I want to find my brother and tell him that I love him. Because that's the kind of man, that's the kind of father that my dad is. And I think that's the kind of son he's raised me to be. I've got to go find my dad.